And was healthy all the way to the end. And such a higher form of intelligence. He controlled his whole life. Everything was always under control, except when he was down by 5 with about 3 seconds. But even in the end, it was time. He told me it was time, and he wanted to go. And he went his way. We got him home. Believe it or not, we got him home 5 hours before he passed, and it was he and I was able to flick on the Laker game. And they threw the 76ers into overtime, and I think he fell asleep because they lost the game. But anyways, we're going to start this short little video here. It's actually a nice length, and it's very good. So, Chrissy, take over.
I see trees of green. What a wonderful world. Ooh, yeah.
I believe it was, and not very many men get to be there for the eulogy, and he was there, and he was able to obviously enjoy the day and the people that happened to be there that day, and it was a beautiful day. But let me go back to the start here and try and make this as quick as possible. We'll get my brothers up here to say a few things and go from there and have a good day. But there's some things that are written at the table in his program here. But he came from very humble beginnings. His family, genocide survivors of the Turkish-Armenian genocide. His parents fled Turkey and Armenia in the early, would have been 30s, late 20s, I believe. And came to the States and met and had my father and sister, who's here with us today, Gloria, a few years behind him. He had a little brother, made it to about 2 years old, and lost him to pneumonia, I believe it was. But I asked my dad, how did you ever learn about Babylon? Became, peddler, and wanted him to be in the vegetable and fruit business, and it wasn't for Dad. And he learned from, believe it or not, the library. He would go and read books, and Dad was an unbelievable reader, tremendous amount of books and reading that he had done in his lifetime. And he learned the game, and he said he had some great coaches, and he would tell some great stories about living in LA in the day of the trams and being able to take a tram to the Coliseum and how he could get into every event without paying. He had a way of doing that, movies and other events, but made his way through education and wanted to be a teacher, wanted to have an impact on young people's lives, and he had opportunity to do other things that he always felt probably would have made a bit more money for him. But that was never the motivation for him. And there's some people here in the room today that he actually taught when he was in elementary school, at Locker Center Elementary School. And Noel, his trusted attorney, but I would say his very trusted friend. And he was with Dad all the way to the end, and at the beginning of his journey into education. And there's so many people in this room that he either taught school to, coached, but really he was first and foremost always trying to help people and always had the right thing to say at the right time. He was just tremendous. He was such a higher form of intelligence. I was saying this earlier, that he controlled his whole life. He controlled everything, all the way to the end. ready to go, and he went. And, people statements, oh, he made it to 96. God bless, he made it to 96. He made it to 96, but miss him every day. Miss the phone calls, miss the conversations, all the wealth of knowledge. And, he always, just some things that he dropped on me all the way at the end, and to everyone, they were, his idol and one of his favorites was obviously John Wooden. And his favorite John Wooden thing was, learn from the past, plan for the future, but stay in the present. And he was always, every call, make each day your masterpiece, son. Make each day your masterpiece. It goes by so quickly. And now he's gone, it does. It just, looking in the room, we just got to take time to enjoy every minute that we're here and every moment that we're here. I guess I want to open the floor, give the mic over to my older brother, but he was a living legend, and there's a lot of people that you might want to say that about, but everybody in this room knows that how legendary he was and is, and he loves his family tremendously. It was all about family, and he never complained. Family was all over the map. Brothers in China and Australia, Las Vegas, and couldn't get to see him as much as we'd like. And but he always, as long as you make a phone call, just make a call, just call me. And I would, and he'd tell me, hey, you don't need to stay on the phone so long. Hey, you're dropping all this wisdom on me. How could I dare hang up? But anyways, again, there's all you people here. Like he said, he really felt that way, that everybody was just a beautiful part of his life, and watching everybody succeed and do well in life, but more importantly was the type of people, and the type of people that you all are, and the fact that he may have had just a little part of what you are, and you wouldn't be here if he didn't touch your life in some way, and that's why you're here today. And we want to celebrate that and celebrate him. He's watching us here, and he wants to say Valley Navy, Valley Blue, Valley Falcons, and the blue on blue. There's nothing you can do. You can't stop. You can't stop the blue on blue. And if there's anybody here from Pasadena, we don't want to hear about it. Anyways, I'd like to turn it over here to Bride, my big brother here, and Kevin.
One of the things about being overseas for the amount of time I've been, there's certain sacrifices, and one is you're not around your family. And I've been thinking, as I sit here, there's so many people that I haven't seen for so long. And, my mom's passing, Gavin's passing, my grandparents, I've never been, just communication. But the whole time we're in the flight, the whole time I just coming here with my daughter and my wife, talking about Dad and all of this, and seeing everybody, really excited in one way to be here. And then obviously the disappointment of losing your father. But I thought, I was in Manila, and in the front room after we've got a game the next night, and the San Miguel Night Fighters are playing Talking Text. I know you're interested in that. And coaching staff's in the other room, and the phone rings, and it's my dad, so I go around the corner, and I sit on the bed, and we start talking, and I said, Dad, I'll catch you when we come back, go to Vegas, have meals, you know, really excited, really looking forward to it. And the phone conversation was different. You know, it's, hey man, I'm not gonna live forever. It's coming. It's coming. And I want you to know, no tears. I'm good with it. I'm good with it. He goes, I've had a wonderful wife, a wonderful wife. I love my sons, and I love my friends. And I got out of there, came back in the room, and the guy I'm closest to that was sitting by the door, my door, goes, that was a conversation, wasn't it? And I said, yeah, it was. And then we had the event where we all got together and saw each other, and I, you know, it's coming. And now I think, you know, he made it very, very important to him that this was, I know Greg said it, this was a celebration of his life. He didn't want any tears, he didn't want anybody, he has no regrets, he had a great life, he loved everybody that was involved in it. And so proud, as I, you know, because I'm not there. So, you know, so many of you reached out, touched him, all the guys that he coached, all the guys that, you know, staffs that he was with, people in his life. He was really proud and really loved you all, you know. And I think about that every day. And then he said at the end, he said, "You're a funny son of a bitch." And he said, "You'll get up on the mic if it ever happens and you're talking about me, you'll stumble around." He goes, "Don't tell 10. He goes, "Get a glass of wine and tell some stories and start that. Make sure everybody has fun." So I was thinking, I've had so many of these when I talk about my dad, and a lot of people don't believe that the stories are real. You know, standing out in the jock stock, in my jock strap in the parking lot of the Vegas basketball game because I was so bad in the first half. Ricky said I was just kicking my ass so bad, said I didn't deserve the uniform, stand outside. And I came back and I did get a cold. I didn't feel very well the next 2 days. But, I mean, that was one of the many. But I thought, you know, I went to China, and I'm coaching in China, and I'm all the time we talk. And I took a really bad team over, and we're playing, and it's, you know, we sneak into the playoffs. In the last game, we played our arch rival. They've got an NBA local guy named Yi Jai-Lin, used to play in the NBA. We beat this dude by 3. You know, it's a huge upset. Our club's never done that. It's the last game of the regular season. Bobby Brown, we run him, gets 73 points. We win. Everybody's hugging. And now, first round of the playoffs this is Sunday night. The first round's Wednesday, and we play the same team because we finished 8th. They finished 1st. So, game, we get. They're angry. We play the first game. We get smacked. The game's over. My dad calls. And he goes, "Brian, I'm so proud of you. It was God, man, you made the playoffs. That team last year was." And I listened for a while, and I go, "Dad, yeah, we made the playoffs, but we played the first game." And he goes, "Oh," and I said, "Yeah, just a little while ago." I go, "We lost by 60. So there was no shit. And we lost by 60. You know, we're 40 days. It wasn't, you know, it was a bad 60.
There's a good 60.
Immediately starts. You know, he goes, "Oh, just tell these guys, you know, it's one game, it's a series. Keep your head up, you know." Then he stops his voice. He goes, "Shit." He goes, "You lost by 60. He said, "Mail that shit in. It's done. It's done." Anyway, nice to see everybody here. And like Greg said, I look at all the faces faces here, and so proud of all of you. I know Mike, he wanted to, it always mentioned that there was 3 sons. Mike was number 4. Thank you for being here. And again, love him. He's special. There'll never be another Ed Goorjian, and he loved you all. Thank you.
Conversation on every subject you could imagine, including intensely personal ones, as he opened himself up for me to truly know him. I wasn't been talking. He'd swing his legs over the side of his favourite recliner, and we would philosophize on everything and anything. He was well read and could discuss most topics competently, never pretending what he didn't know, but applying that amazing intuition, gut instinct, to get to the core of what was really going on.
His last words on his last phone call on the day he passed were, "Don't be sad, man. I love you, I love you, I love you." He had many tips we kept uppermost in our mind on grieving, wallow, cry, go down memory lane for 15 minutes, Kevin. That's enough. You switch, clear your mind, and go on with your day.
Another one was, only be around people who see you, appreciate you, love you. Let the toxic ones go.
Treat the janitor the same as you would treat the principal.
There are always those that will betray you. It's part of life. Let it go quickly and move on. And there are many more.
I'd like to acknowledge Dad's 30-year relationship with Calvin. These 2 men truly loved each other, and Ed would say, "God sent me, Calvin." We will never forget the beautiful man that Calvin is, and his deep friendship with my dad, and all he did for him.
We have no
haven't seen
regrets
him.
that we missed one
I
last
think he's
trip
in
with
Hawaii.
him, as we treated our last 10 trips as if they might be our last.
Calvin.
We know how blessed we are to have had him in our lives as long as we did. The goodbyes were brutal. All that needed to be said had been. The most important is that the relationship and connection was deep and solid and embedded in us.
It was his time and he chose it. Amazing man, amazing life. We're here at his wishes to celebrate him.
For a final challenge from Ed, which is not that easy but could be. Every morning you have a choice, he would say, when you wake up, to be happy or very.
Quick thank you to a few people, especially, I want to thank Coach Joseph, Mike, for everything you've done for the family and setting everything up and getting this done, and also for my mom, and then also for the thing we did a year ago. His dad and Mike spent a lot of time together, you know, camps and coaching and a lot of years. But I want to turn the mic over to, if anybody else, Noel, I know you wanted to say a few things.
I think I would like to go toward the end, because I'm gonna do Ed BCV before Crescenta Valley. I'm gonna stay for that one.
Yes, so, you know, just to add a few more of Dad's favorite sayings at the end there was, he had one that I loved. It was, Greg, you don't need the whole pie. You just need your little slice of pie. You don't need the whole pie. You know, in the comment that Kevin made, and it's so true, that you don't waste a whole day on a problem, Greg. You got a family problem, you got an issue in your life, give it some time. Don't lose a precious day, not one moment. And he did that, and he lived that, and again, that's why we're here today. So, anyways, anybody else have a story they want to tell or say about
Well, no, not really. You ain't talking back here. But no, I met Mr. Goorjian, 1975, and it was really funny because my mom was a disciplinarian, and she didn't miss a game. I went to Long Beach Poly. So we were playing in the Center Valley tournament, and that's when Brad, I see you in here somewhere, Brad. Anyway, Brad was there, and he has a whole other team, but we played you guys in the semis, and we beat the brakes off y'all. After the game, Coach Goorjian came to my mom, and he goes, "Hey, I'd like to, welcome your son into my home." And so I didn't think anything of it, and then I went to my coach, who's another legendary coach, Ron Palmer, and I said, "Coach, Ed Goorjian, he wants me to come and hang out with the family." And he said, "Great man, listen to everything he has to say." So I went back home, and I'm telling my mom, and she goes, "Yeah, I know. He came up to me and asked me the same thing," and he said, "Yeah, if he comes to my house, I'm gonna make sure his ass stays in line, because if my youngest son, Greg, they're gonna get into some trouble." So anyway, just wound up spending time welcoming into the family, and I was there for maybe 2 or 3 days with the family in La Crescenta, and just welcomed me into the family. What a great guy.
I feel super blessed to have played for Coach and be a part of the program for those 3 years. Practices. I actually was pretty deranged, I think. I look forward to practice. It was so entertaining, so interesting, and they were hard. And the games, we won most of those, so that was good. If you've ever been to a midnight practice after a loss. One of the things I remember about practice that I can't get out of my head, and all the players here will relate to this, is after about an hour how thirsty I was. You remember this? So by the end of practice, all you could think about is walking downstairs to the locker room and turning on those faucets and getting a drink, because we weren't allowed water. It was a Rob, you know what I'm talking about? It was a test of discipline, mental discipline. Like, you don't need water, you need to fight through it. You're fine. Coach, if we had a drink, we'd be even better, right? It's like, God, hey, so Brian said, Dunlap's here. I love Dunlap. Played for him at LMU. I thought I was the 4th son, but I'll be the 5th son. If that's good? If that's good? Okay.
You actually came.
Yeah.
You came before. You're born first.
Yeah.
You didn't meet Mike until after you.
Yeah. So Brian, was before me in that incredible team. Legendary, right? We all had to live up to that, right? And Brian, you remember this. I was a freshman and you were a senior at Pepperdine. We rolled into Poly Pavilion for the first round of the NC2As. You should have beat us. I mean, you had us on the ropes. That was I'll never forget that. And then, Greg, you know, Greg.
I'm on the move. I just saw Dale.
So he just obliterated all the records I established and then some. But I played with the middle guy, I played with Kevin. And he couldn't play dead in the Western. That was his dad's words. But such an awesome teammate, and I love this guy. He's just the best. Just the best. And so you mentioned Coach Wooden, and I will say this: I've played for some great coaches, but Coach Ed was the best ever. And but Coach Wooden had this saying: "Said you haven't had a perfect day until you've done something for someone else that could never repay you for it." And Coach, you did that for me. And I love you, and I'll see you in heaven.
Hi, my name is Noel Allen. I'm Glendale High Class of '60. Is there anybody older here than me? I wanted to take you back BCV, before Crescenta Valley, because if you go online and look up Ed Goorjian, all the information on Ed's life is Crescenta Valley in time forward. And I didn't recognize you, Brad. I'm sorry. I'm a USD guy myself. I want to take you back to before you go there. I haven't heard. I've been waiting for somebody to say Ed's nickname, and I haven't heard it. In high school, he was affectionately known, not to his face, of course, as Easy Ed. Easy Ed Goorjian. And I mean, we all called him that, but not to his face. He was always coach. Back in 1953, I was a fifth grader at Lincoln Elementary in La Crescenta. And there's a couple people here from Lincoln. And we had two men teachers in that school, Bob Black and Steve Smith. And they were our coaches. They wore a letterman jacket from Occidental. The coach over at La Crescenta Elementary was Ed Goorjian. And I had this recollection of playing La Crescenta in football, because I played football, basketball, and softball there, both 5th and 6th grade. And I had this, overhearing this conversation between Bob Black and Steve Smith, that Ed was a little over the top for grammar school. And I was thinking about that, what I would say here if I had the opportunity, and trying to find a word that would describe Ed at that point in his life and would be valid up to this point in time, and that was the word intense. Ed was intense. And it wasn't so much that he liked, that he hated losing. I don't think anybody likes losing, but what he really preached as a coach was he wanted you to be the best that you could be. And for me personally, he always communicated the notion that you could be better than you thought you could be. And those are two things that I took with me after I left high school. But let's go back to 1955 when I leave Lincoln. I go over to Anderson W. Clark Junior High, which is now the present situs of Crescenta Valley High School. And who comes to be the coach there? Easy Ed Goorjian. I had Ed Goorjian for PE and basketball and football. We didn't have softball in the junior high until that time of the year. In that day, I don't know why. But I had Ed as a coach for 3 years in junior high. And when I graduated junior high in 1957, off to Glendale High I go. Who goes to Glendale High? One of us has bad karma. And honestly, I decided the only sport that I could play and not get killed was basketball. Too skinny to play football, and I couldn't hit a curveball. and baseball. So basketball was my sport. And for the first 2 years there, I was a bench warmer on the team. I didn't play, but my senior year, I was the starting center on the B team. Now, is there anybody in here play B sports in high school? I gotta tell you, that was for the young and the physically disadvantaged.
I thought that was water polo.
And truthfully, I qualified on both counts. I was young and I was skinny as a rat. I weighed in my senior year. Weighed in to play basketball at 125 pounds. And if you look at the pictures in the yearbook, I think that was a generous. But that team that senior year was just really one of the best years of my life. And you know, for all of you who played for Ed, and you know, you have the joy of really accomplishing so much, and so much more than you thought you could ever accomplish going into the season. We had, I was the tallest guy on the team with one exception, and he was a sophomore, and I don't think he'd get his shoes on straight. So I ended up being the center. And the reason I was the center is because I couldn't shoot very well, so forward was out. I couldn't ball handle, so guard was out. So I volunteered to be the center, having no clue what that entailed. But Ed was smart enough. We ran the forward guard pick and roll, and I was the third option. So if you're the third option in a team that has people who can shoot and ball handle, you aren't going to touch the ball very often. And that was fine, because I made my points on rebounds and garbage time underneath the hoop, which was great. I asked Ed at the start of the season, because I'm a person of faith, I've done all my life. My earliest memories of a child are my mom and dad escorting my two sisters and me down to the First Brethren Church in Glendale for Sunday school. I just thought everybody went to Sunday school. How naive was I? Anyway, that was really a good thing for me because I became a Christian at an early age. And so senior year, I approached Coach, and with some trepidation, by the way, because you know, Ed wasn't all warm and fuzzy. You kind of had to pick your spots if you were going to do something that was warm and fuzzy from your perspective, and hope that he could buy into it. So I approached him before the season began. I said, Coach, I really have a favor to ask. Would you allow me just to say a prayer in the locker room before we go out on the Goorjian game? And he readily agreed. We didn't have a dialogue. He said, do it. And so I did that, and the prayer was very simple. It was, Lord, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the men in the room here. Thank you for our coach. Just help us do our best. It was never about winning. That really wasn't anything we could control. If we did our best, we were going to control that aspect of the matter. But it was just to have the sense that there was a higher power, maybe willing to look down upon us with some favor. We were 20-1 here. And the team we lost to by 2 points in the preseason Foothill League tournament, which was Burbank. And then we went back about 3 weeks later and beat them by 5 on their floor. And then when they came to play Glendale, we beat them by 18. But that was the only loss. And I was trying to think back because it was not fun to be an Ed Goorjian coach team and lose. And I was thinking back, how was it that I don't have any recollection of the following practices after we lost the game. One blessing was that it was the Foothill League tournament, and we played 3 nights in a row, so we didn't have to go to practice the next day, and I think we'd still be there. But the blessing was he did not. I went back. My mom, God love mom. My mom saved all the Glendale News Press clippings, the box scores, the write-ups of that season, and in that day, we always played before the varsity. So we had both varsity and B box scores, and my best friend was a fellow named Tom Dose, who was the center on the varsity team, and we lived 2 blocks apart back home, and we're still best friends today. So I went and looked at that last night, and I was looking through the box scores and the notice the information. I haven't looked at that scrapbook in years, decades. Gotta love my mother for keeping it, because it's something I want to share with my grandchildren at some point. There was an article written by somebody in the news press that this Blaster team was 20-1 was the greatest B team of all time. Now I don't know where that came from, but it sure sounded good when I read it. we were so blessed that year. It was a wonderful time. Again, I don't have any recollection of Coach really coming down hard on us. You know, if you played for Coach, was there ever any coach more organized than Ed Goorjian? I mean, we had this routine we went through every afternoon at school, preparing for the season, for the next game, rather. And it was the same routine, and you know, we prospered. It was really great. I want to say a word, but I'm going to skip over. I almost skipped over this. But you know, in that day, people who went into teaching were really a unique breed. They really were. Almost all of them worked a second job because they couldn't make enough money teaching. And the joy of being around those folks, for me personally, was you could see that they gave a hoot about what they were doing and they cared for their students. And Glendale used to have, before the Galleria and all malls came into existence, Glendale used to have a Sears store right downtown Glendale with like 4 stories. And I would love to go in there on a Friday or a Saturday, and Friday night or Saturday night, and there would always be 3 or 4 people from Clark Junior High, teachers who were working a second job at Sears. Bob Black left teaching, my 5th grade teacher. Really he probably the best teacher I had in all of my public education. I went through all 12.
You, Brad. You don't have to worry about being 4th. You're just a son of Coach Goorjian. And I'll tell you a little story. I was a scrub. I had to fight my way to the gym to play at Loyola Marymount. And I was non-scholarship. I played with an All-American at JC. And because they wanted to secure him, they offered me a walk-on spot. I got to school, they cut me the first day when they took a look at me. True story. By Christmas, by default, because I was always getting under guys' legs, a lot of guys got hurt, and so they gave me a scholarship. Then they fired the coach, and then got a new coach, and he put 7 of us in a scholarship. We'd only won 3 games that year, our junior year, at LMU. And the coach came in, put us in a classroom, and said, all of you are gone, you're terrible, see ya. And then just showed us the door, and out we went. So I just went over to El Camino Junior College, where the coach was there, and he had a bunch of All-Americans, and he was trying guys out. And they needed a 10th eventually, and I just sat outside and dribbled the ball. They let me in the gym, I played. Coach Goorjian comes over, because he was the assistant at the time, and I played okay. And he said, hey, why don't you come back tomorrow? We need even numbers, we'll call you even. I'll get back to you, Brad. So, anyway, by the time that the mid-year came, we were on a win streak, and we were going to be that story where we ended up winning the league and going to the NC2As. But my point is, it shepherded me through, and being of no talent and being told that by coach, he said, you got to play to your strengths. And he said, that's no talent. And coach, the players that are in here know that coach presented obstacles mentally to see if you had the fortitude to push back. And in those days, the coaching methodology of that time was to do that. And if you could push forward, then you were way better. And if you couldn't, then you were a dead duck. But the thing about Coach Goorjian is there was no such thing as a dead duck, because he had this uncanny compassion within him and a fierce, fierce exterior. And the heat that came off of him during practice was definitely Armenian. And Coach studied history, and so he would tell you about the genocide. I didn't know what that was. I didn't even know what that meant. But if you were with him, he would take time and be really supremely patient and give you a history lesson of actually the reality of that, and then take you across the bridge to the fruit truck and his father in the time that his father got drilled, and never missed a day of work, and was poured into a bathtub so that he would be there the next morning to work. And he was laden with bruises, probably had a lot of broken ribs, etc. And that was part of the Goorjian lineage. All right, and again, this gets back to you, Brad. You in terms of your importance, number one, and number two is pecking order. Coach really believed in pecking order. And this goes to our last year, and we had to beat St. Mary's in order to go to the NC2As. And somehow, some way, we won that game. And here we go, and we're going to play Arizona State, and a trivia answer to that question was they had 5 first-round draft picks at Arizona State when Ned Wolf was there. And there were 5 first-round. It never happened before, so here comes LMU at Arizona in the regional to play that game, to play them. So David and Goliath for sure. And so we're having a practice, and this one particular player who was out of Atlanta, who later on lit a house on fire because he was pissed off at his girlfriend was with another guy. So the guy had a degree of grit to him.
Yeah, you think?
My point of telling the story was that he suckered me, and Coach used to, and for all the coaches here, used to love to run a stack set, and he would do different levels of the stack set, and I want to embellish the coaches here, because the coaches understand you have a double on one side, and they would be built like John Block, or they would build like Bob Boyd. They not only knew how to set screens, but they would club you anytime you went through. And my job was to guard Danny Davis, who was a JC All-American and a great player, and he'd bring me through the middle of the key and then run me off one side or the other, and these guys would just pick you off. And I mean, here and there, the whole thing. So I had it, and I had this all year long. So I came through that particular stack, and the back of my hand found his jewels. And down goes Worthy, all right, and then I immediately, Coach Goorjian ran over, grabs me by the jersey, sends me into the locker room, practice continues, and here comes Coach, double doors at Loyola, and I'm just sitting there going, oh God. And he goes, that was the greatest shot. And he said, if you ever do that again, you're done. And I was nobody's son, Brad. And I certainly wasn't his fourth son. So give Brad a hand. There's impossible to go here, and this is not my time. Yes, I was a part of the Goorjian family. I played for Coach. I worked with Coach as I traveled 3 times a week. And there were some misses, but definitely never a miss after I left to share my journey with Coach Goorjian. And yes, selfishly, I was just picking off advice every week, and you guys have a snapshot of what his heart was about. I just want to touch up a couple things. And number one was Joyce. And Joyce was English. That is, and if you were a part of the Goorjian family from a masculine side, mahogany, dark wood, oh yeah, that was all Ed Goorjian. But Joyce was touch. And she had an uncanny ability to smooth it all out. From tea in the afternoon to a simple way of adjusting like a good carburetor. Coach Goorjian, when he was 100 degrees in the living room, he'd get carried away, he would lose himself, and Joyce just had a way of tapping him, and then the volume would go down. And when I look at each of the sons, starting with Brian as the eldest, Brian has tremendous charisma, and he has an uncanny ability to tell a story, and he's all about relationships and loyalty and friendship. And that was Coach Goorjian. but that was also Joyce. Touch. And then you go to Kevin, the meat and the sandwich, and all I have to say to anybody here who understands basketball, I can say this name, Ben Simmons. And Ben Simmons came and played for Kevin. There hasn't been anybody that could coach Ben Simmons except for Kevin. And all the smart people in the NBA, they weren't smart enough to hire him, because if they hired him, they would not be having these problems with Ben Simmons. Touch. And when I watched Kevin coach at Box Hills in Melbourne, I was smitten with his touch. None of that did I have any of those social graces. And then you go to the talented Greg Goorjian, who is a multitude of gifts. Most people associate him with scoring and shooting, but his gift of being resilient. Coach Goorjian's life story was not easy. It wasn't easy at the beginning, it wasn't easy in the middle, and it certainly wasn't easy, what I would call easy, at the end. But getting back to Greg, you have an uncanny ability to be resilient with all your gifts. So framing those three boys in, I'd like to give them a hand. I don't want to leave Coach's sister behind, because whenever I would call, either during Thanksgiving or Christmas, they were a family of tradition. And the twinkle in his eye saying that he was going to go have a meal with his extended family, and just consuming food, because the one thing no one's touched on is the man could eat. I mean, it could be a turkey sandwich, it could be rice pilaf, it could be whatever, but he never left anything on his plate. But my point is that that was another aspect of his. John O'Neill, I do not want to miss you in this journey, or Calvin, but John, you're connected to me. I'm just over here, again, in a very kind of ancillary way in the back of everything, and it was lucky enough to get to the NBA. But Jamal Mosley is the gifted one, right back there in the corner. Coach Goorjian was ushered into Jamal's life by a man of gifts himself, and Coach O'Neill. And I remember when Jamal was struggling with understanding life and all the nuance of life as a young man. And Coach Goorjian would do his talks with Jamal, and Jamal had the presence of mind and smarts to connect with Coach and heed some of his pearls. I would say it that way. And so my point is that, again, Coach not only had the gift of compassion, but he had a way of dropping pearls that if you just picked them up, they would compass you through the rest of your life. And so, I just think it's really, really important that you, as independent jewels here, sitting here, you all have a story of one thing or another, but if you don't stand up, I just want you to know that I'm sitting over there with a deep understanding that your story is the most important one, without question. All right, and I just want to say that I'm blessed to be here. My lovely wife, Molly, of 36 years. And I just want to say that being here today is nothing but a privilege. And a highlight of my life would be here just observing and listening and laughing and being a part of this. I have two things I want to wrap this up with, and it was just me not knowing how to say things or articulate, but it was just something that I wrote a while back and retitled because it was appropriate for Coach Goorjian. And it's called My Coach. He died yesterday, it just happened. No need for details. Does it really matter? Ask yourself. The sun pulled back the clouds. That day, family, some other friends, just stood and stared. Does it really matter? Ask yourself. The river pushed open the earth. Before night could finish, it was said, he emptied himself for others. Does it really matter? Ask yourself. The lava joined the sea. At the crest of daybreak, the magpie sang a spirited song. Does it really matter? Ask yourself. The ashes melted into the light, and we smiled. Thank you.
Perfect for something like this. Want to thank again everybody for coming out, showing up, and honoring the legend. I did get a text from Calvin, and he told me, just wanted to remind me that we're honoring a legend today. And Calvin couldn't be here today. Many of you in the room may have met Calvin, but he was Dad's right hand for several years here now. Probably he was 33 years in Oceanside, and they became very close right away. And so, anyways, I wanted to thank Calvin as well as everybody else had earlier. I don't know what to say after all those stories. They're great. Boy, I've got a million of them. But again, growing up in La Crescenta and Crescenta Valley, it's been said many times that it takes a village, and we definitely lived in a village up there. And it was interesting though how he called us hillbillies, because he came from LA. He couldn't believe that he ended up in the hills of La Crescenta. And anyways, it's been a great time here. I'm glad everybody showed up. Please don't go. We still got the room for another hour. The bar is still open. The most important thing again is to celebrate. I did want to do a prayer. Family was, we weren't heavy churchgoers, but there was definitely Christ in our house. And before every meal, we would say the Lord's Prayer. And so I just like to say the Lord's Prayer before we wrap up here today. So, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever. Amen. Now, I can't recite it, but I know that there's some people in here. We're not going to do it. But Dad's favorite poem, and he made everybody in his earlier classes. No, I don't know if he had your class memorize it, but that was his poem. So if you ever get a chance, poem by Kipling, Runyon, okay? But that was his, and that was really how you became a man, and that's what he was all about. And he lived that, and it rubbed off on all of us. Thanks again, everyone.